Allow me to share my screen. This is Corrala Ficklin McLean. Welcome. WYLCOME.com. We are continuing talking about pronunciation. This one is going to be a little bit complicated, so I hope that I make sense. Okay, as far as when a letter is hard versus soft, whatever. Okay, so I hope I make sense in this. First of all, I just want to make sure that you understand how the Z is pronounced. Let's say in Latin America it's pronounced one way, and in Spain it's pronounced another. In standard European Spanish is pronounced another. So the Z is pronounced, and the soft C is pronounced in Latin American like the S. Conoces. Cielo. Right? My pronunciation might be off because since I know it's a Z, I still put a little bit of that Z in there. But in standard European Spanish, it's pronounced like the TH. Conozco, conoces, right? Or zapato or zapata. It's pronounced like the TH. And so because my mind doesn't always cooperate, I pronounce it sort of like in between, which probably makes my American accent even stronger. Okay, so I want to go back because for whatever reason, I put this at the end of what I want to say rather than in the beginning, but that's no problem. I want to go back to, please excuse the noise. I'm in my house recording rather than somewhere else where I record normally where it's really quiet because we're still doing the pandemic. Okay, so people have decided to come out and beep and fix things so you can hear it a little bit. So here we're talking about the C, the soft C sound equaling the Z sound, either the S or the Z sound. So we're talking about verbs that end in Z-A-R, theta A-R. When those verbs are in either the command form of the usted or ustedes, or in the negative command form of the to, the AR ending becomes the ER endings. That's also true when we're talking about the subjunctive. When you're talking about the subjunctive, the AR takes on the ER endings, just like the ER endings and the IR endings in a subjunctive form and in the usted command imperative, the ustedes imperative, and the negative to imperative takes on the AR ending because the endings exchange. Now, normally that's not a problem, but when you have a verb like theta or zeta and it's ZAR, now it's not a problem, but the pronunciation changes and the spelling changes. Because now when the AR takes on the ER ending, now you're going from a hard vowel, AR, to the soft vowel, ER ending. So you have realizar or realizar, right? When the ending is either an E or an I, it's realice. Amuerse. So the Z is transformed to the C in the subjunctive form, present subjunctive form, and in the command form, usted, ustedes, or negative command form for two. So let's just look at it. So you have realizar, and then it becomes realice. Almorzar, then you have almuerce. Avergonzar, then you have averigüence. Okay, empezar, empiece. Okay, comenzar, comience. Now, the reason you have the change in the empezar and comenzar is that they are irregular verbs, so you have to learn about that. And also the verb tropezar is irregular. Alcanzar, alcance. Okay, organizar, organice. So here we go. ZAR in the subjunctive, present subjunctive form, the Z becomes a C. And the C becomes the soft C sound. And the soft C sound in Latin American Spanish is S. In standard European Spanish is TH sound. And here you see that. But look up what is a subjunctive if you don't know already, a very important mood in Spanish. And also the command form, usted, ustedes, and the negative to command. Okay, that's clear. More words that in theta R or ZAR. Colonizar, cruzar, finalizar, hospitalizar, legalizar, all these words, all these verbs, they change in the subjunctive form and the command form, except for the two affirmative command. Now, here you have the CER verbs, like conocer, aparecer, nacer, padecer, estremecer. Okay, now what happens? When they are in either the command form, usted, ustedes, or the negative command form, to, these are the CER verbs. The C becomes a Z, C, theta, se. But we're only talking about CER verbs. Also, we're talking about, so let me just show you. We're also talking about CIR verbs. We're also talking about CIR. There's not that many CIR verbs, but CER, quite a few. Okay, so what happens when there's an exchange? When you're talking about the subjunctive form, when you're talking about the command form, but also when you're talking about the CER and CIR, some, certain. The yo form, for example, the yo form, that's a hard O. So it takes on a hard O sound. Let me give you an example. You have the verb conocer. So it's yo conozco. You see, that's a hard O sound. Then conoces, then it's the soft sound. Conoces, conoce, conocemos, conocen. Aparezco. You see, that's a hard O sound, right? Then the rest is apareces, aparece, aparecemos, aparecen. But because the yo form is with the ends in the O and is a hard vowel for verbs like conocer, aparecer, nacer, padecer, estremecer, the yo form becomes not C, but ZC. The same is true for the IR verbs, like lucid. If you go all the way down, you see the verb you also see the verb inducir and lucir, right? Now, this is not only true for the yo form, it's also true for the command, usted, ustedes, and also for the subjunctive, what is it? Present subjunctive. And the reason is that when you have the yo form, it's followed by a hard vowel. When you have the command, except for the affirmative to, it's followed by a hard vowel. When you have the subjunctive, present subjunctive, it's followed by a hard vowel. For example, you have the verb lucir, so it's lusco. So it's the ZC, lusco. Then you have in the subjunctive, because you have an exchange of endings, the ER and IR verb takes on the AR endings. So lusca, luscas, luscas, lusca, luscamos, luscan. So it's the CZ. And some of these verbs are very important, such as amanecer, carecer, crecer, inducir, fallecer, lucir, pertenecer. Okay, so the minute you see a CR verb and a CIR verb, know that probably it's going to be irregular, but the irregularity can be explained. Especially when you're talking about, no, not especially, when you're talking about the yo form, because the yo form is with the O, hard vowel. The command form for usted, ustedes, and the negative to, followed by a hard vowel. And the present subjunctive, because you have an exchange of the ER, IR verbs with the ER, IR verbs with the AR verb. And once again, I have that card because I put that card after everything I just said, but I started with it and I'll end with it. Do not forget that the Z in Spanish has two sounds depending on what part of the Spanish-speaking world you come from. I think also in parts of Latin America, the Z sound also sounds like the TH. Okay, so that's it. I'm not going to put too much in there. I hope I'm clear. I hope I'm clear. And when you're talking about the Z, when you're talking about the C, when you're talking about the C followed, and it's a CE, the ending to CER, CIR, versus when it's ZAR. I hope I'm clear, because this is important. It might be technical, but it's important. So this is Coralla Ficklin McLean. Welcome, WYLCONE.com. Thank you for listening to my video. I hope I'm clear. And if I'm not as clear as I think, or that I hope that I am, I hope the cards help you. That's why I do both, the cards and the video, you know, when I'm speaking. And many of the verbs, let me go back. These are good verbs to learn. CER verbs, CIR verbs. These are good verbs to learn. Aparecer, conocer is a very important verb. Nacer, padezco, parecer, very good verbs to learn, okay? And then, excuse me, I don't know why that's there. Then when you're talking about the ZAR verbs, you know, colonizar, cruzar. These are good verbs to learn. And their verbs that end in ZAR. So learn them, learn their exceptions to the rule, although within the ZAR, that is the rule. So you can increase your vocabulary. So this is Coralla Ficklin, McLean, WYLCONE, welcome.com. Thank you. Let me stop sharing. And I wish you a good day. Bye-bye.